3 hours for public safety, curfew hours, pursuant to IC 31-37-3-4, and Chapter 381, Section 103-105 of revised code. We had a long distance hearing, Madam President, on 4/15/2026. She Terry Hickman to speak before the committee and share her thoughts on why we want this to extend, and she did. And I would ask that this pass today because of Committee 91. Madam President, I so move.
Second. The motion has been properly moved and second. Comments from councilors? I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, did you want the chief to come?
So yes, and Chief Terry, she's present. She spoke to us eloquently about the need for IMPD as this as a tool for the men and women of IMPD. So she's here. She can speak more to the proposal. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam President. I did go into quite a bit of detail in front of the Public Safety Committee regarding what we've been seeing and how we got here. Obviously, what got us talking about this last summer was the tragic incident that we had the night of July 4th in downtown Indianapolis, in which we lost a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old at 1:30 in the morning, and 5 additional people were injured by gunfire, including 2 juveniles and 3 adults. That prompted us to, as a city, adopt an emergency curfew, public safety curfew last year, and we have seen some concerning trends since then involving youth violence, and certainly my position from a public safety standpoint is this is just like Councilor Robinson said, one tool among many different strategies that as a city I think that we should come together and adopt. Some of the statistical information that I shared with the committee that gives me concern is the increase now, while the city as a whole is seeing a decrease in gun violence. Year to date, we're down over 20% of homicide victims and over 16% of non-fatal shooting incidents. However, the thing that was catching my attention is the percentage of overall victims that are juveniles in both homicides and non-fatal shootings. So as it relates to homicides, what I reported to the committee is that we're seeing an over 3% increase of the percentage of our victims that are juveniles from this year to last year, and over a 4% increase of non-fatal shooting victims that are juveniles. And then several concerning events this year that I highlighted to the committee, including just 3 weeks ago, a little over 3 weeks ago, we had a 13-year-old that was out at 1:30 in the morning as a passenger in a vehicle that was participating in a street takeover activity, was accompanied with a 20-year-old that had a handgun with a machine gun conversion device on it and an extended magazine, and the 13-year-old was armed with an AR-style pistol. That was at 1:30 in the morning after curfew. We also have made several arrests involving juveniles. This year in February, we arrested a 17-year-old and a second teenager for murder of a victim in the 38th and Illinois area. Also in February, we arrested a 16-year-old for a murder that occurred last November in the 38th and Meridian area. There was another arrest of a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old for a fatal shooting of a 17-year-old and a non-fatal shooting of another 17-year-old that we made also in February. Also in February, I must have a really bad month this year, we did have an officer-involved shooting in which officers attempted to stop a vehicle that was occupied by several juveniles, in which officers were fired upon and returned fire, injuring those individuals, but there were firearms recovered out of that vehicle, and those firearms were used. Occupants in that vehicle were suspects in another homicide. Some of the other concerning trends that we've seen on a national scale are related to social media and teen takeovers, so to speak. Now, I did mention to the council or the committee that we did have an advertisement locally for a teen takeover at the Castleton Square Mall. That was supposed to be at the end of March. However, we did put a public safety plan together, and the mall also provided additional staffing, and nothing came of that event, but it was an advertised event. What we have seen across the country with these incidents that develop very quickly and without notice in most cases is just a lot of young people that are unsupervised and engaging in risky behavior, dangerous and criminal behavior, including fights, property damage, gun violence, and sometimes death. Other examples include in Los Angeles, more than 100 people took over an intersection, vandalized city bus, and set off fireworks. In Chicago, they've had neighborhood street takeovers in which residents' vehicles have been damaged with teenagers jumping and running on top of them. Over 30 cars were damaged in the neighborhood there. And Detroit has seen it, and the DC area, Navy Yard, has seen it on multiple occasions. Typically, when we see trends like that, Indianapolis is not immune to that. Social media and those types of trends with the age of technology, that kind of thing travels very quickly, and those trends tend to hit us eventually. So again, I would just propose that curfew is one tool. It is not the answer. It is not the end-all, be-all. But our goal is to keep our kids safe and to keep them out of situations in which they're subjected to dangerous behavior or victimized by dangerous behavior late at night. Adjusting the curfew, to me, encourages more parental and parent and guardian involvement in our kids' activities and what they have going on, where they are, who they're with, and engaging the family to keep tabs on that type of activity instead of having unsupervised kids out late at night doing who knows what. We've also teamed up with multiple community partners. When we think that we might have unsupervised teenagers, we've stood up what we're calling a connection center, in which we can bring kids that are engaged in behavior that draws our attention, that might be unsafe. Maybe they're out after curfew, and we can take them to a safe location and get them connected with resources for them and their entire family. So that's the piece that I think is really critical in all this, is that our goal is not punishment, it's really prevention and partnerships. And this is just one tool of many that I think not just IMPD, but other city agencies and other community-based organizations need to step up and come to the table to keep our kids safe.
Chairman Robinson.
One quick follow-up, Madam President. Chief, thank you, Chief. So, again, you spoke to a lot of different violent episodes that occurred locally across the country. But can you just reiterate the fact of this curfew extension, that's not for the kids that are out there. And the idea is to connect them with the connection centers and the mentors is a priority, not to arrest them. Speak to that, please.
Yes, that is correct. The goal of curfew is really not curfew enforcement. My hope is honestly that we will implement this curfew and parents will take heed, and this will be a deterrent. But if kids are out past curfew, arrest is really our last option that we want to use. We really want to connect kids with resources and get to the root cause of why are they out without supervision, why are they engaged in risky behavior, and see if we can change the trajectory that they're on.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Chief Terry. I'm all for, I don't want to use the word reducing, but curbing gun violence, and I do want to see our youth and everyone across the country here, even in the city of Indianapolis, live. I want us to be, I'm an advocate for gun violence to make sure that we have a safe city, right? And so I was opposed of the curfew hours from 120 days and wanted to do it 60 days because I understand we're doing a proactive approach. My understanding of it is I have always had youth at the table, especially with Brandon Rando, and I've, been at the table with the Children's Policy and Law Initiative of Indiana. And one of the things that I've heard, even from one of the young ladies that was presenting, guns are accessible right now. And when we decided, I'm gonna say we, but when the state decided to do the permitless law, that put guns in everybody's hands to me. And that hurted our community. And as that young lady, I can see her face when she was presenting, she said, if I want a gun right now, I can go get one in less than 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. That is real. I've been at many funerals where I've had to speak. I've held the hands of a mother and father. So I do believe accountability needs to be heard, but our children wants to be heard at the same time too. So when we come up with these laws and these ordinances, I think they should have been at the table. And granted, I know everybody said we're getting ready to be in budget season, we can add it into our budget to give them something to do. We was at the same stage last summer. We did not have that conversation. So I urge my colleagues as we begin to vote, and I want to be clear, I want to protect everybody. I really, really do. I do care about my community. I'm a mother. I'm gonna say I have little people in my next generation. I have cousins. I have nieces and nephews. And I have family and friends. Like, I've been impacted personally by this. And so as we do this, I urge my colleagues to please, let's have a conversation with the youth and see what this looks like. And again, I'm all for accountability, but we do need to speak to our youth as well. If we want to tackle gun violence, we do have to address from a state level, to be honest with you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, just restating something I think the chief said and Chairman Robinson emphasized, and that's that the intent here is prevention and connecting youth with their parents or guardians to make sure that they are supervised and connected to family and not out in the community when they shouldn't be. This is especially selling to me. The chief referenced incident 38 in Illinois, which is I believe that's adjacent to my district this weekend, not directly analogous to the situations we're talking about, but multiple people were shot in my council district, including someone killed by youth who had access to guns. In addition, there was a situation I had to deal with that took quite a long time to manage, where youth were around Tarleton Park and making the park dangerous because of the gun activity. But ultimately, the curfew played a role in ensuring that those kids got connected back to family and guardians, and the prevention aspect really took effect. So I think really emphasizing that the IEP here is oriented towards connecting youth to family, making sure that guardians and other responsible adults are involved, and I think that's probably the cornerstone and the most important part. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Councilor Bain, Chairman Booth.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to applaud to you, Terry, for bringing this proposal forward. I think it's a very pragmatic approach to what we're doing here. I know there's a lot of conversations about are we being proactive or are we being reactive. I just think we're being pragmatic when it comes to protecting the youth, because at the end of the day, it's about protecting youth and protecting people around youth who are not, who are probably out too late and shouldn't be doing whatever it is that they're doing. So really appreciate your leadership on this, bringing this to the council. Look forward to supporting it tonight.
Thank you, Council Chairman Booth.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Chief Terry, for presenting this evening. Just to clarify a couple of questions to address issues we've been hearing and some of our counselors have been contacted about. If a youth is picked up, they will not receive any type of criminal record in the system as a result of that, correct?
Well, it's a status offense, and those don't follow anybody beyond when they turn 18. It's a status offense. It's not even a criminal charge.
So they're not arrested, correct?
Well, they could be taken to juvenile. They could be. I can tell you that we haven't done that. really, I don't think we've done it at all since last July.
But that's not the goal of this program.
It's not the goal. The goal is to get to the root of why the kids are out without supervision, without parental involvement. And in one case involving the Connection Center, I would like to highlight, we actually intervened in some young ladies who were with an adult. The adult was giving them alcohol, and our analysts in the Real-Time Crime Center observed what was happening, called it out to the officers. Officers were able to intervene. We brought them to the Connection Center, got their parents involved, and the kids were actually somewhere where their parents didn't think they were. So those families were connected to resources. But yes, that's the goal of what we're looking to do. Long-term prevention. If it's a curfew status offense today, maybe there's an intervention that prevents that conduct from escalating into something even more dangerous. Or maybe it gets a kid out of a situation in which somebody else is doing violence and they're a random victim. They don't need to be there.
Yes, and I just would encourage my fellow colleagues here to appreciate that, again, no one's being sent to jail. This is not the final solution and the answer to what we're addressing. This is just one tool that the IMPD has asked for, and I think it behooves us to grant them this one tool. We have historically tried to address the systemic causes of crime, and I think this is one step in that direction. In association with the OPHS and those programs, I think this complements that quite nicely, and I do like the preventive approach to this versus the punitive. So I would encourage all fellow councils to approve this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Hart and Councilor Graves.
Thank you, Madam President. I've heard a couple councilors bring up the word parent a few times. I think even, Chief, you brought up the word parent. And what sticks out to me is last year we were in the same position. We brought up the same ordinance, special ordinance, and we actually had a tabled ordinance for parental accountability on curfew, just as a reminder to everybody. I do agree that this doesn't stop here. There are more things we can do, both programmatically, but also while we are connecting parents and children at the center, that's where it ultimately happens. But we have an opportunity, I think, I know it's on our agenda at any time that anybody, this body wants to follow through and join in. I'm happy to make the motion and bring it back up. So if you guys want to have that conversation, I encourage you to have it with me going forward.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Chief Terry, for the presentation and for the real clear images of what's happening across the city and across the country. Chief, I just want to ask if you could perhaps talk about those crimes that you mentioned that are actually happening after the proposed hours. You mentioned so much that's going on. You didn't differentiate it if it's before the curfew hours or after. And I'm just curious to know if you have data that would even heighten the need for this, because those crimes happen after the proposed hours.
Yeah, I would say, admittedly, the majority of those crimes are not during curfew hours, but we've had 1 out of 3 homicides involving juvenile victims this year that have been during curfew hours. That's one, and I think that's somebody that lost their life that was out past curfew. I think that one was at 1:30 in the morning, if I recall. Maybe it would have made a difference, maybe not, I don't know. As far as the non-fatal shootings, and these are not today's numbers, but we had 4 that were out at past curfew for non-fatal shooting victims. And that doesn't count what happened this weekend on the north side of town after an after party in which other people were injured by gunfire, young people. I hope that helps give you some idea of. I think that every one of them matters, and well, I would admit that the majority are not during curfew hours, but everyone counts.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam President.
Councilor Jay Brown and then Chairwoman McConnell.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Chief Terry, for sharing all the stories. I think all of us should be horrified. I think all of us are horrified hearing about that. Youth behaving extremely dangerously, people losing their lives in ways that none of us want to see. It just strikes me that that's not naturally how young people behave. And I think, I want to give my commendations to Chairman Perkins of the Education Committee last month. If anyone in the audience has not watched that committee meeting, it was maybe my favorite committee meeting I've had on the council. We had multiple different professionals who work with youth talking about how to help their mental health, how to help them avoid violence and have different paths in front of them. So we know what policies we need. And I want to commend Councilor Allen for just excellent comments. I want to co-sign and ditto everything he said. And specifically the part where, granted, the state put us into a very difficult position when it came to the budget, and we knew that last year. But we heard that the IPD is stuck doing a lot of overtime work, while the CIB still has a contract from 2012 that hasn't adjusted as officer salaries have gone up. So we're ending up subsidizing billionaire sports team owners, and they don't have the money for this type of programming that we know is the actual solution here. And so, these are all political decisions, and earlier someone brought up political theater. I'm not accusing you of that, Chief Terry, and I know your officers work hard and are in a dangerous position. I do understand that, believe it. I don't think that this curfew sets the right message to our constituents, though. I believe you're coming in good faith, and I appreciate it. But when, youth leaders, when Brandon Randall, when, the Children's Policy and Law Initiative of Indiana, the Councilor Allen mentioned, are all reaching out, expressing strong disapproval, are asking us to please just center the voices of our youth, I'm just going to have to honor their call, honor the call of the Black Church Coalition, who is here tonight as well. And I would encourage my fellow members to vote that.
Majority Leader, then Councilor Perkins.
Thank you, Madam President. Chief, thank you for the presentation, the commentary, and Chairman Robinson. My comment is more directed to my colleagues. Much of what Councilor Allen has said earlier. When I hear the word intervention, I almost scoff at it because I think our youth don't need intervention. They need something to do. And it's time that we put our money where our mouth is at. If we can support economic development deals all over this county, it's time to start supporting youth-focused, family-oriented businesses. And if we don't have the means to do it today because of whatever avenue, then we figure it out. If we've got to work with the state, then we get over there and start advocating for what we need. Because it is frustrating to be right back here. And I understand this is a tool. I'm all for having all the tools. But the fact that there is a need is what bothers me, and an entire year has went around and we have not attempted to move the needle on this issue. And no offense to churches and all that stuff. I support all of the youth-oriented and focused camps and things they do. The bottom line is, what is there for a kid to go do? And they don't necessarily want to go to church camp or have the Friday night movie over there or whatever the case. So, no offense, Councilor Perkins. They want to hang out with their friends and they want to socialize. And they got to have avenues to do it, and we're not producing the results for that. Thank you.
Preacher Pastor Perkins.
Thank you, Madam President. At a risk of being repetitive to my colleagues, one, we honor the work that churches have continued to do. When government failed, churches have always stood in the gap to provide services to I will share. Thank you, Councilor Brown. Last month in the Education Committee meeting, we invited not only individuals that are on the ground doing the work, but folks that are in the academic space that are doing the research, but we also invited the young people to be at the table. And we heard clearly during that committee meeting what they believe will be not only intervention, but services to help them. There are very few things that we bring to a full council meeting and engage in this level of conversation. Usually it happens in committee and we come to the full council and we call for a vote and we pass it or we deny it. This clearly is an important issue for community. And while I honor that Chief is asking for another tool in the toolkit, I want to encourage my colleagues that during our spring fiscal and during our budget season, that the same level of passion and commitment that we're equipping and offering IMPD a tool, that we're also offering service agencies that are servicing our community at the grassroots level. We oftentimes back away from these difficult conversations and find a number of excuses why we can't do it. The same level of passion that we're now empowering our chief and our police department to go out and implement this particular ordinance. I am encouraging us to make sure that we bring that same passion when we're talking about where we are putting our money as it relates to our young people. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The motion has been properly moved in second. We'll now proceed to the board for our votes. The proposal carries 21-2.
Young people deserve to be at this table.
The next item on
And
our
y'all have
agenda.
failed young people. Drastic.
The next item on our agenda is proposal number 100,
Shame.
refer to Public Works Committee, Chairwoman Jim.